T.J. Hooker returns next week at this time. Now a special presentation.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Welcome back, everybody. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here on a late Thursday night, early Friday morning, as we make the transition from Leap Day to the beginning of March. And who better to join the journey with me than my dear friend, Tony Fleecs. Good to see you, buddy.
Celebrating the end of Black History Month, everybody, with your favorite.
Two white guys. Two white guys. Hey, how you doing? Hey, that's great.
Happy to be here, sir. Very happy to be spending time with you again.
Tony, you're killing it, man. I'm so happy for you. And truly, I refer to the new book as a sequel to Stray Dogs. Are you doing the same with Feral?
Yeah, it's like a spiritual sequel. I hope retailers just continue their orders just like they had never stopped ordering Stray Dogs. That would be nice. But yeah, it's the same. It could be in the same world. It doesn't have the same characters, but it's animals. It's horror. This time it's cats instead of dogs. It's basically The Walking Dead with cats. Straight.
Yes. Have you coined a phrase for this splicing of genres with cute, funny animals and abject horror?
I call it petsploitation.
Okay, I like it.
The Pornsac's doing petsploitation right now. I feel like We 3 was petsploitation, and Stray Dogs was definitely petsploitation.
That's a good point. Yes, of course, We 3. I just talked to Pornsac last week.
I heard. I was at Comics Pro with him and Jesse. They ran up to the room to record with you. We were walking back from dinner, and he was like, "I got to go do a podcast. It's a really important one." And I said, "Which one is it?" And he said, "Word Balloon." And I said, "That is the really important one."
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I love it, and I'm glad. I of course made the allusions to Stray Dogs with Man's Best, and
sure.
It's great. And of course, forgive me, Tone. What's your collaborator's name?
Trish Forstner.
Trish Forstner. Yeah. You guys are killing it. I love Trish's style. It's beautiful. This is very gentle, and the right retailer in the wrong customer's hands might say, just so you know, I know it's got the cute little animals on there, but they're about to go through hell, and you need to be warned about that.
That I have gotten that response from a lot of retailers that they have to point kids in another direction. They point them towards the Scooby-Doo or something.
Yeah.
I always tell people, parents or retailers that sell the kids, to set the bar at Stranger Things. Like if a kid can watch Stranger Things, he can probably read my comics. But if that's too scary for them, they should probably steer clear.
So how was Comics Pro last weekend?
It was great.
Were you both there? Was Trish there with you?
Trish was not there. I was out there. The folks from Boom were out there. And then Dave Wachter was out there because he lives in Pittsburgh.
And we'll talk about your new book with Dave in a second.
Yeah. So yeah, me and Dave were out there, and we did a lot of like face-to-face with retailers. Trish is on the East Coast, which I guess Pittsburgh is almost.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly not that far.
Yeah,
I mean it's kind of in the middle of like Chicago and the East Coast, basically.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh. Yeah.
But yeah, Pornsac was there. Jesse Lonergan, Ed Brisson was there. Matthew Rosenberg was out there. Greg and Fake from Santos Sisters were out there. And then fucking Amory Wars was out there.
Oh, good.
Cohesion.
Claudio?
Yeah, Claudio was out there with his wife, and they were.
Oh, nice.
Joe Ryban from Dynamite was out there. He's my editor on Army of Darkness.
Oh, very nice.
So yeah, it was like a Comic-Con without any customers.
Yeah, without the customers. No, I've been a Comics Pro before, and it is interesting. So, as you said, initially that was the Stray Dog feedback, obviously, to be like, hey, just parents, so you know, this is what it's really about. What other feedback did you get?
Well, I mean, it was nice going because I had gone to Comics Pro right before COVID with Stray Dogs. Because a buddy of mine, Ed Greenberg, who runs Collector's Paradise out here in LA, told me that if I'm launching a new book and I'm a new creator, I should take it to see these retailers with. And so I took that book to them and I sort of like stated my case. I said, here's what it is. Here's the pitch. Stray Dogs is a pretty easy pitch. So I was able to really get a lot of people on my side then in 2021. And so it was nice to go back and just sort of check in, be like, how did that go?
Yeah.
Like, it went pretty good. Cool. I have this new thing that's more of that. So hopefully a lot of those retailers who had sold a bunch of Stray Dogs, I was able to sort of like reconnect with. And I took preview copies of Feral and Uncanny Valley, and I took a bunch of promo stuff for Local Man. And so hopefully, I don't know, we'll see. FOC for the new Local Man special and for Feral #1 are both on Monday the 4th. So we'll see how it went. I think it went pretty good, but comics is so weird right now. I mean, I
do know, absolutely, man. No, and it's I appreciate that. Yeah, and we'll talk about Local Man certainly as well. You were kind enough to send me Volume 2, which again, final order cut off Monday, along with Feral.
Yeah,
yeah. What else can I say? Stray Dogs. What's happening? We got word that it was picked up for development, and any news on that front?
No real news. I mean, things are happening. We have meetings and stuff like that, but it had like when the book came out, it was set up at Paramount, and then since then, Paramount, the woman who was the president of animation at Paramount who bought Stray Dogs, got let go for some non-Stray Dogs business. She wasn't let go for buying my book, thank goodness.
You bought what?
There's no coming back from that. But there's the same story where when an exec gets let go, they sort of want to clear the slate because nobody wants to take a chance on somebody else's risks. Nobody wants to take the same risk that person took. So Stray Dog is in turnaround right now, and we're gonna take it, hopefully somewhere else. I assume we'll have that figured out here soon. But in the meantime, I'm launching all these other things. It's like easy to sell it the first time. It gets a little more difficult every other time you sell it.
Okay.
So because for the first time, it has nothing on it. It's a comic book. All you got to do is pay me, and you can have the rights to make. Me and Trish, and you can have the rights to make it. And then the next time, it's like, well, they got a script that they wrote, so we got to pay that off, and so it takes a little more convincing every time.
I see. Okay. No, it's again, unfortunately, well, good news and bad news, because I do think there's still interest from a streaming standpoint in animation. So I'm relieved that God, I mean, it's, again, we've got long memories, but it really does seem like slowly North American animation or North American properties are reaching that level of anime from the Japan side, that adult animation continues to thrive. It's crazy, Tone? I released it a couple days ago. I found this 1989 radio show where Mel Blanc was on with a local Chicago guy, and I was a big fan of the show. And as I found it on YouTube, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, oh, I remember this show. I'm like, wait a minute. Not only do I remember this show, but they took listener calls, and I called in. And I got to Mel Blanc in 1989. And it was great because it was post me doing radio in Central Illinois. But it was really kind of, I was just starting to break into the Chicago market as a guest on sports shows and stuff, talking about boxing. So, and also, God, even though this was, got to do the math, 35 years ago, and I was an adult man, my voice was, as Michael Caine says, the brandy and the cigars had not affected my voice.
Yeah.
So I am a more vibrant John than the current broken down version.
This on the channel, I can see this.
I did it literally. Well, it's not on the YouTube, but it is on the audio. I am going to make it into a little video.
Yeah,
and I think I'll probably put it on when the next time we do the Yeah podcast with Artie and Franco.
Now, were you on TikTok and stuff too? Like, do you?
I should be, Tone, but I first of all, as you know, I'm the most disorganized man you know. In fact, there is a reason why my background is blurred. It's so nobody can see what kind of slob I am. Basically.
I like the blur. This is new for me. It's just to see in your couch and whatever the fuck's going on in your kitchen.
Same camera angle, and really, it's just because seriously, I should point it at one of these walls where I've got a bunch of framed art on the wall and stuff, and it's just like, yeah, but the couch is very comfortable.
Sure.
Even with my ergonomic chair, right now my back appreciates the couch. But talking to Blank in '89, this is before adult animation really took off here in the States. So this is pre-Ren and Stimpy. I can't think of earlier '90s cartoons that had an edge to them. Again, 1989. This is really when we were learning is half the fun, and the height of when they really dumbed down Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So I'm like, Mel, what do you think of, compared to the sharp dialogue from the Warner Brother and the Hanna-Barbera cartoons? So at first he didn't realize what I was asking. And he's like, well, we had to make them cheaper because we only had 10% of the budget animation wise that they had when they were theatrical releases and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But what about the writing? And he's like, well, yeah, he goes, well, we were writing for more of a general audience. And, it was really the movie theater audience was adults and kids. So we could slip stuff in. And, God, again, Hanna-Barbera and the Jay Ward stuff, Rocky and Bullwinkle and all that early 60s stuff, it was all good stuff. Thankfully, we've moved on from that period. And now we are getting good adult animation and stuff. So I do think Stray Dogs, despite it being a turnaround, I think if they're smart, it's a great idea. And hopefully, it finds a new home.
Yeah, I think we'll figure it out. I mean, if not, we got Feral coming up right behind it, Well,
absolutely.
We got Uncanny Valley, I'm
yes,
stuff out, baby. Speaking of Mel Blanc, speaking of Looney Tunes,
indeed, this is great. You and Dave Wachter with a new boom book, Uncanny Valley, and I assume this was what you handed out at Comic Pro.
Yeah, this is what the ash can looked like at Comics Pro. That's sort of what the first issue will look like, but it'll be a fully finished color, not like one of these rough cut looking things.
Okay, because then the interior. Well, first of all, give people the pitch on Uncanny Valley.
So Uncanny Valley is like a coming of age story. It's about this kid named Oliver who's 12 years old. He's got a mom who's a traveling nurse. She's a single mom, and it's just them two. That's his whole family. And they're always moving around because she's a traveling nurse, and he has trouble sort of like making friends or feeling any sort of connection or connecting to any sort of culture or feeling like he's from anywhere. And so it's a story that starts out very small. It's just about him, his relationship with his mom and the world around him. And then he feels like he doesn't fit in, and then he realizes in the first issue that that's because he actually doesn't fit in. He meets his grandfather, who's a full cartoon character. He's like a Yosemite Sam, basically. And then he gets pulled into this big adventure. Dave Wachter, who draws it, described it as like Percy Jackson meets Bugs Bunny. It's sort of like a animated style coming of age adventure, chosen one type story.
And it's like Toonville and Roger Rabbit too.
Yeah, for sure. Roger Rabbit for me came out when I was like 10 years old. And so it really had an effect on me. I saw it and I was just like, well, this is how everything should be now. Like, I don't want to see another movie that doesn't just have cartoon characters in it, because that's the best fucking thing I've ever seen. And then they just did not have them, they would have like a little bit, like, the movies would come out like The Page Master, where there'd be a little bit of crossover. I feel like Rockadoodle had like real kids in it, and then at some point, but until Space Jam, and then
Right.
you may have enjoyed that, but I didn't care about basketball, so I was just like, oh, I have to see all these.
I'll confess, obviously, we love that Michael Jordan was playing basketball with Bugs Bunny in the winning sense. But I have to admit, I didn't give a damn when LeBron did it in Space Jam 2. But also, what I love, too, about the Ash Can, and I don't know if this is the case in the regular book, there are certain scenes that are flashback scenes that weren't fully colored. Was that for the purposes of the Ash Can, or is that going to be in the regular?
No, the final book will be fully colored. That was just for the purposes of just getting the book out there so people could read it.
Okay.
Okay. But it's cool too for you to get a look at sort of, because Dave's doing pencils and colors. He's doing everything besides letters himself. And so you can sort of see on some pages just the bare bones, like here's, even just looking at this cover, like the bottom half of that is just very simple drawings. And then the further up you go, it gets more and more rendered. And Dave coloring himself in this thing, he hasn't colored himself in years, probably a decade. And it's just, it's fun to see him get to go crazy like this and just really, he's getting to be really indulgent, and I get to benefit from it. He just wants to make his shit look good, and then I just get to stand back and be like, oh, it's my shit too. This is nice. This works out.
I'm really glad you guys are working together. Dave is one of the first creators I met when I started doing the podcast, because Dave was based in Chicago. In those years and everything. And I'm so happy for him, because truly he has just grown and is such a great artist, and everything he does. And this book really does show his versatility in the best ways.
I'm hoping people see it, because he is really one of my favorite artists. And I remember when he did that Godzilla in Hell book, where he colored himself too. He wrote it, colored it, drew it, everything. And I was just like, I hope people, because like Godzilla in Hell, the big deal was like James Stokoe was coming back to Godzilla, and he did the first issue. But then I was just like, people need to pay attention to this Dave Wachter issue. That's the real one,
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm hoping people come to see it, if not just for me, but so that they can see Dave doing the full thing. And he's drawn realistic characters and cartoon characters, and there's like a cool juxtaposition, a cool contrast, and I don't know, it's great. It's really beautiful looking, the artwork.
Yeah, this is fun. And would you say this is more of an all ages book than Feral?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely not as violent as Feral. It's definitely would be like a young adult type, graphic novel, if I were to aim it at anything. But it's written by me, a 44-year-old guy, so it's aimed towards people my age as well as younger, and I don't know. That's the part I'm bad at, is like who it's aimed at. I just try and write it as good as possible.
Well, and I hear you, man. And it's like you said, I think it is for people that, got that bite of the apple with Roger Rabbit and really did appreciate the idea of the animated world clashing with the real world. So I think it's great. Is this how many? 5 issues, 6 issues?
It's solicited as 6, but it can go longer if we sell enough. We've got big plans for it if it keeps going. If it's 6, it'll be a fun little 6-issue thing. But if we can get it, further than that, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Every issue we introduce new powers and new cartoons, and so it's really the sort of thing that will just grow and grow and grow and get bigger and bigger.
That's awesome, man. And again, I think you were subject to a different kind of Saturday morning, and also the animation you grew up on was a lot different than the animation I grew up on. Like I said about my frustrations with Mel Blanc and stuff when I spoke to him. And Feral.
Okay.
How long is Feral? Real fast.
Feral is ongoing. Feral's the follow up to Stray Dogs. It's 3 indoor cats trapped in the great outdoors in the middle of the woods during a massive rabies outbreak. So it plays like a zombie story with cats.
Yeah.
And the plan for that is for it to just keep going and going. We're hoping, come Tuesday, it may be like, well, it's a 5-issue miniseries, like depending on what the numbers are like. And
is that through Boom or is that Image?
That's Image. Yes.
Okay.
Stray Dogs
Okay.
and Feral are both through Image. We
Which,
went
wait, Feral and what else is Image? Stray Dogs, right?
Stray Dogs, obviously, and Local
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, Local
only
Man. Yes.
book is Uncanny Valley. They're
Okay.
new. They came along in the wake of Stray Dogs to see what I was up to.
No, that seriously, Tone, that's great. And I mean, you've been knocking around a long time, man, and I'm really glad that the last few projects have really stuck, and finally people are paying attention. Let's talk about Local Man, because, as you say, Volume 2 just wrapped up, and we've got the Volume 2 trade coming out pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah, the Local Man Bad Girls and the Local Man Volume 2 trade are the next things to come out, and then Tim and I jump into the third arc, which is called Lost Ones. But yeah, the second arc was crazy. We sort of took this thing we built, and it's like you put something together and you sort of like test it out and see if it'll stand up. And that first arc, we sort of got it to stand, and then the second arc, we were just like, let's see how hard we can drive this thing. And we, took it in some real weird directions, which was super fun. I mean, I love making comics with Tim and at Image, just because nobody tells you anything until the printer says, like, we're not going to print that. Like that's how fucked up you have to get at Image Comics for them to say anything. And even then, they just send it to a different, more liberal printer. Like a couple times they've had to send stuff to Canada, because they just be like, yeah, they're not going to print that in Pennsylvania.
Oh, so it has happened to you where you've had to have an alternative printer?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's, I mean, it sort of is the proof of the promise of Image, where they're just like, this is your comic, you make it, you do whatever. After they give you the thumbs up on this, of what the kind of book you're going to make is going to be, it's up to you to just make it and make it successful. Or, so yeah, the second arc, we really went nuts on it and tried a bunch of fun stuff. And then in this third arc, we're sort of taking all that stuff and trying to turn it all into like one big, we want to bring it all back together. Like the first arc, we set up a thing, and then the second arc, we took it and pushed it as far as we can in a lot of different directions. And this third arc, we're sort of hoping to bring it all back together. We'll see how it goes. That's pretty abstract, but.
Well, I'll clarify a bit and say Local Man is about a superhero that fucks up and comes back home, and which is rural Wisconsin, an area that Tim certainly is well versed in.
Yeah.
And we're following Jack, and Jack was Cross Jack as a superhero. Yeah. And kind of a 90s. It's perfect that it's at Image, because it's certainly got that Image 90s superhero feel to it, Youngblood and the like. And in fact, didn't you have some 90s Image guest stars pop up through the story?
Yeah, we sort of name check them all the time in the first volume, and then after issue 5, we did a one shot called Local Man Gold that guest starred a lot of Image Comics superheroes, some of them from the 90s, some of them from we figured out a way to bring in a lot of characters from different eras. So like a lot of them were 90s characters, but then we also had like Jim Rugg's Street Angel.
Sure.
We had Joan from Love Everlasting in there too.
The time traveler, Joan. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So
Cartier and Tom King's heroine from Love Everlasting. Absolutely. Yeah.
And Tim drew those characters, and he would make, like Fire Breather's in there, and he draws it just like Andy Kuhn, and he draws Joan just like Elsa would draw her. So we're really making it a celebration of early Image Comics, especially, but whenever we can, of like all of Image Comics, because we just love the idea that there is a world where all the Image Comics exist together, even though it doesn't make sense anymore. Like they're like Chew and Saga can't be in the same. They can't be in the same world with Walking Dead, right? Like it doesn't make sense. But in our head, we would like to figure out how that could be, because
absolutely,
like the feeling of those early books, like the Max crossed over with Pitt, and so it's just like, well, how did that make sense? Like the Max is so crazy, and the Pitt's a space alien, it just didn't. So So yeah, like you said, Local Man's about this guy that's down on his luck, who's a former Image comic superhero, and he has to move back in with his mom and dad in the Midwest, and then people start getting murdered, and he starts looking into it. So he finds himself sort of like a would-be detective, even though he doesn't have any detective skills. But as the story goes on, he sort of figures out that his superpowers, which were he was like an archer, he's not an archer. He was like basically the Hawkeye or the Shaft, the character who would be an archer. He's good at aiming. He's like Bullseye.
Right. Yeah. Pretty much any weapon. He's just got
Yeah.
terrific aim and everything. Yeah.
And he learns through the course of the story that like it's not that, it's just that like his power draws him towards the right solution. So if it's in a situation where you're aiming at something and trying to shoot it, like the right solution is you hit it dead on. And as a detective, he sort of is drawn towards the clues or towards the truth of the thing. And so that's been fun to sort of work through, to just get to write the story of this, dipshit who's just like slowly figuring out what his thing is. Because I feel like so many superhero stories, you read them, and like Cyclops already knows that he has optic blasts and he needs ruby quartz glasses and stuff like that, right? But what if it took him a long time to figure it out? What if he's just like, I don't know what's going on. Every time I open my eyes, I just blast people all over the place. I don't know what So because I feel like that it feels real to me, obviously it feels real to me. It's my story. It's me and Tim's story. But the idea that you don't quite know what your shit is, you don't quite know what your thing is, right away, and it takes you a while to figure it out. It feels real to me.
Yeah, he kind of jumped into the superhero world and really was over his head.
Yeah.
And now that he doesn't have the regular trappings of being a superhero, it's even harder for him. And yeah, I mean, it's the who am I kind of story of, God, it's what I loved what Jason did with Thor when he gave Jane Foster the hammer. And, the Odin son is like, well, if I'm not Thor anymore, then exactly what am I?
Yeah.
And, it's I think that's a great kind of personal story, along with the trappings of what's happening in the crimes that he's trying to solve. Plus the other superheroes and villains show up, either to take advantage of him or to keep him down and be like, you were drummed out for a reason. Don't start up again.
Yeah. And so that's where we're headed with this. On Monday, feral FOCs, but also Local Man Bad Girls. And where we sort of left things at the end of the second arc, we've got a lot of interesting stuff happening with a lot of like the women characters in Local Man. And so we wanted to stay in our 90s lane of like celebrating these weird 90s things that were happening, and do one that really looked like a Bad Girls comic and felt like a Bad Girls comic, but also treat all these characters in it with it's so weird because I do love these comics, right? But you want to treat them with a little more respect, I think, than in the story,
Sure.
So we're trying to sort of like explain where these women were coming from, and not just have them be like 2D villains or villainesses, or so yeah, Local Man Bad Girls sort of bridges from in between the second arc into the third arc of Local Man, and it sort of sets us up for where it's going. And a lot of crazy stuff happened in issue 9 of Local Man, and so this sort of like picks up on that without going right back into Jack and his story. Let's check in with his ex-girlfriends and with his ex nemesises and see what's going on there.
That's cool. And will that ultimately be traded in volume 3 then?
Yeah, Local Man Gold's in volume 2, and then Bad Girls will be in volume 3.
Got it.
And then Bad Girls also has the same way Local Man Gold did. Bad Girls has a bunch of cool Image guest stars, so it's got Cyber Forces in there, and Witchblade, and She Dragon, and some Dynamo 5, and
Dynamo 5, hilarious.
Yeah, we got a bunch of cool Image characters in there, and of course,
wasn't that Jay Ferber's group?
Yeah,
Dynamo 5?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. A ton of Dynamo 5 characters in there, and then Seeley throws in his characters. I'll just be like reading along in the script, and he'll just be like, and then Love Bunny, and I'm just like, nobody, we need to explain more who Love Bunny was before we jump into this. Is sort of like the continuing adventures of Love Bunny and Mr. Hill.
one of my one of my best friends from college that is still a comic book guy. He came with me to see 2E2 one year, and he went up to Celie and he's like, "Can you draw me Love Bunny?" And Celie was so happy, and I'm like, "Dude, this is the biggest Love Bunny fan that I know." So there you go.
I'm like, we went out of our way to get like Cyberforce and Witchblade and all this stuff, and then like when a crazy scene happens, he's like, "Okay, so then Love Bunny finds the thing," and I'm like, "What about Witchblade? What about any of these? What about any of these characters we went out of our way to get a hold of?" But I like sort of also putting Tim's characters into like a larger image context as well. It's fun.
Well, and honestly, when you step back and you think about it, both more so DC than Marvel, but that's kind of the DCU, man, where you've got Space Cabbie and Superman, yes. And they're in the same universe and everything, man. You know, it's so it does kind of work. God, you know, wait a minute. Speaking of the DCU, you're my first guest. Potentially, I don't know if you ever met Ramona Fradon, and if you did, yes. If you had any chance to talk to her, and you know,
we didn't talk a ton. I met her at Denver Comic-Con. I just went up and I bought a piece from her.
Sure,
she was there, and it was before Denver Comic-Con was like the big crazy thing that it is now. So she just had a table like there might have been a banner, but it wasn't like a big setup. She was just there. And then on the table in front of her was just a bunch of pieces spread out, and they were like $75, $85 or something.
Oh, yeah. Always reasonable. I bought my last Baltimore. I bought a Green Arrow from her. And, well, she wasn't there. Her dealers were there.
Yeah, I remember that. I was there, and they announced that she wasn't going to be there because she was trying, you know, she didn't want to get sick.
It was like the first post-COVID. You're right. One of the first big cons. So I got
a Metamorpho from her at that Denver show.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really cool. She was a fucking great artist, like super talented.
Well, and God bless her, man. Sharp till the end.
Yeah,
I mean, really, like Steve Raisky, a big podcast listener, when she passed, of course, couldn't pass up my first time that I met her was in New York, and you know, easily 15 years ago or something, maybe even more. One of the first New York shows when it came back, and I went up, and of course, being the lumbering 800-pound gorilla that I am, I bumped into her table while she was drawing, and she shot me. Dude, believe me, I died 1,000 deaths, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, Miss Fradon. So I bought a Metamorpho from her then, and subsequently, I could never find an Aquaman that I could get from her, but I did get a Namor from her.
Nice.
And I'm trying to think of what else I got. Those are the three big ones: Metamorpho, Namor, and Green Arrow. But no, I mean, what a genius and lovely woman. I mean, just terrific lady and very, just smart and sharp.
I saw on there was their RIPs and their remembrances and stuff. Dave Kopecki on Facebook is an art collector, and he runs the Wildstorm board. And he posted a Fairchild from Gen 13 that I don't know if he had her do it or if he just bought it, but so cool to see her draw stuff, from my era too.
God, I saw someone post a Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers Captain Marvel that she clearly did, in the last 10 years or so, whatever. And no, it was fantastic. No, she was great, and I'm glad. And whether it was her dealers kind of pointing her to characters or requests from fans, who knows? But man, she had it. I blew it. I wanted to interview her, and she said, "Well, if you send me questions in advance, so I have a chance to really think about them, because it would probably help me out." And I just kind of felt like, all right, well, I'm kind of feeling like maybe just to talk to you at a table is enough. I don't want to. I didn't want to overtax her. And sadly, that was a couple of years prior to her passing.
I wish you would have told me. I would have typed them up for you. What do you think of the new Star Trek? I hate it. What are your thoughts on the new Planet of the Apes? I haven't seen it. Have you watched anything new lately?
Have you heard the weird rumor, and this has nothing to do with Star Trek, but that John Byrne is dating Mia Farrow?
What?
I know. That was my reaction, Tony. I got that from the grapevine, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
I mean, listen, I hope
source swears it's true.
Man,
I know. Worlds colliding. I mean, it makes sense from an age standpoint.
Sure, and he does. I mean, he seems sort of Woody-ish in that sort of way. Like if that's her type. I mean, imagine Sinatra, Woody Allen, John Byrne. Man,
one of these things does not belong with the others.
I mean, listen, two of those things do not belong with the others.
That's true. Woody and Frank was a reach. Exactly. That was a stretch as well.
I hope that for the sake of all comic artists that is true. That's incredible. God bless John Byrne, an incredible talent. You know, I feel like that would be like, you know, there's a future for comics if that's what's happening.
I'm sure that she saw his art and was very impressed. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, again,
I bet it would be more personality. What I would guess. That's my
probably. Gil has to be lives in Canada, so I think so. But again, maybe not. I'm not. I think he still lives in Canada.
Chris Ryle, where are you? Can you hear this? Is this
true? Really? Chris is the John Byrne whisperer. You're right about that. That's a good point. That's a very good point. You know, honestly, what I do love showing my non-comic friends the commissioned art I've gotten over the years, and they're all blown away. Yeah. And they're not readers, and I'm not going to convert them into readers, but they are like, oh, wow, I had no idea that kind of art was that sophisticated, because they think, I'm going to bring back the Uncanny cover. They kind of think that really most comics are kind of like the grandfather in Uncanny Valley and everything there in the front of the cover, rather than some of the great art that, you know, Wachter is certainly capable of, Gabe Hardman, a lot of our friends, yourself, I mean, Seeley and stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
John, I don't know. Think about anything else besides John Byrne and Mia Farrow right now.
I didn't mean to derail you. I'm sorry, Tony.
An atomic bomb in the middle of the conversation like this. You're telling me Rosemary and John Byrne. Who said this? Where did you hear this?
I will not reveal my source. But yeah, I don't want to do that.
You know, I wish Mia Farrow had another child with Woody Allen that looked like John Byrne. Like, remember when Lady and the Tramp had babies and some looked like Lady and some looked like the Tramp?
Sure.
I wish there was a Ronan Farrow child, but that just would look like, had a little beard and stuff, looked like John Byrne. That's what I wish.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. That's hilarious. And, you know, I sort of love, first of all, the whole Ronan Farrow Sinatra rumor. But then it's like, yeah, but, you know, like Sinatra would have been like, you know, late 70s or whatever when that possible conception would have happened. And I suppose from a science standpoint, it's possible.
I don't think late 70s. Maybe.
Well, maybe it would have been after 60s. But they're like, Frank's health probably wouldn't have been that easy to conceive. But who knows? Who knows?
All of the people are out there counting Frank's sperm. Just like, no way he could have made that work.
All right, baby. Here's the deal. I'm Ronan Farrow from NBC.
Tony Randall just having children up until he's 1,000 years old, and they're just like, I don't think the chairman could pull this off at 62 years old.
My eldest cousin, when Tony Randall had the kid that late and stuff, he's like, Tony Randall's my hero.
Remember Pacino and Beverly D'Angelo were both having kids when they were like 80 years old. It was crazy.
Oh, I didn't remember that, and that's amazing. But yeah, I know they were together for a long time. That's true.
They had twins.
Wow. And, you know, it's the weird celebrity pairings you don't hear about, like, until they themselves start talking about. Like, I didn't know Ileana Douglas was with Martin Scorsese for a really long time. Yeah. And she writes about it in her book and everything. So
remember that part in Goodfellas where she's talking about how Tommy gets so jealous, and she's just like, it's true, he killed me. He gets so jealous. I love that part.
I love her in To Die For.
Sure.
As Matt Dillon's sister and everything.
Yeah.
No, she's great. I'm a big fan. She actually interviewed a good friend of mine, Julianne Emery, who's a terrific actress. So,
Ileana Douglas did?
What's that?
Ileana Douglas did?
No, Julianne Emery. Julianne Emery is a working actress. She was in either the last season of Bosch or the second to last season of Bosch. Yeah. She played Clooney's wife in the Hulu Failsafe adaptation.
Sure.
They did, The General's Wife. She's great. She's in The Riches, the FX show with Eddie Izzard, and she was in Fargo. She was in Better Call Saul. She's a great actress. She's terrific.
How did Ileana Douglas get into the mix with this?
I don't know, but they Ileana.
Interviewed her.
Yeah, she has a regular, or did, I don't know if she still does, but she had a great Hollywood podcast where she'd interview coworkers and co-stars and people behind the camera and stuff. It's great. She's smart. She's really smart.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, back to your books, my friend.
Yes, please.
Because, we tangents are welcome, as you know, here at Word Balloon.
I don't know any tangents that are about any Bronze Age artists that are hooking up with Hollywood celebrities.
Yeah, man. Like you said, Rosemary.
Craig Russell is fucking anybody that was in Oscar-nominated 1970s movies. I'd like to hear about that.
That's fantastic. We're going to discover that Craig Russell and Leonard Fry were actually an item. I love Craig. I haven't talked to Craig in a long time. Great guy, man, and a hell of an artist, amazing artist. Well, you're in the midst of an Army of Darkness.
Yes.
Now, this is everyone. This is an ad for the next issue, but that's because Tony didn't send me the cover. But that's okay.
That's all right. This is an ad, I think, for the second issue, but we're deep into it now. I think issue 5 just came out.
Oh, excuse me.
That's okay. Don't beat yourself up. It's from Dynamite. It's a sequel to Army of Darkness, the regular cut and the director's cut at the same time. Super nerds, fans of Army of Darkness know that at the end of the director's cut, Ash, instead of going back to 1990s Michigan and working at the S-Mart, he takes this potion and he sleeps for 100 extra years than he's supposed to, and he wakes up in like the post-apocalypse. And he's got a big long beard and he stumbles out and like the whole world's been blown up and he's like, oh, I slept too long. And I always thought that was awesome. And I was always excited about the idea that they would follow that up. And they sort of teased that a little bit in the Stars show at the very end. But they asked me if I ever wanted to write Army of Darkness, if I had any ideas. I asked if anybody had ever done, because they've been doing it for 20 years, they've been doing Army of Darkness comics since 2004. So wow. I said, has anybody ever done the sequel, like what happens after that director's cut? And somehow no one had. So I was like, well, let's do that. So I'm sort of treating it as the like Buffy season 8 of Army of Darkness comics. Like this is exactly what happens after that. It's like, it's all you need for a sequel to Army of Darkness. And it will hopefully, if it lands like we've got it planned, it'll just, it'll lead right into everything that comes after it. Even though Dynamite only has the rights to Army of Darkness, there's a way we can write it where it still leads into Ash versus Evil Dead and the remakes and Evil Dead Rise and all that stuff. So.
That's cool. I was wondering if there is any sort of vetting that has to happen for storylines.
There is, but I wrote an outline pretty early on. And they've just been like, yeah, this is fine. Ever since they'll let me. I remember early they said like MGM would like to keep this at like a PG-13, so I just don't throw any F words in it. But otherwise, they sort of let me go as gory as I want and as rough as I want, which is one of my favorite things about the Evil Dead movies is that they're just disgusting and really brutal. So I'm trying to really bring a lot of that. And I think because Bruce Campbell is such a fun goofball character, and because Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness to a certain extent have a lot of that sort of like live action Looney Tunes stuff in it, that
100%.
That a lot of the comics have sort of skewed more that way than horror.
Yeah.
And
it's horror comedy. Absolutely.
I always thought, you'll understand this, I always thought of Army of Darkness as sort of like the Battle for the Planet of the Apes of the Evil Dead movies. Where it's like the adventure one, it's like the family adventure, the Swiss Family Robinson one or whatever, and so I try to skew, it's got a lot of like dark horror aspects to it, but it's also a lot of like adventure, sort of like quests and fights and stuff like that. Like, just like regular genre comic storytelling, but where you can also have people get possessed by the Kandarian demon and become unholy, deadite zombies. And I don't know. It's super fun. We're really having fun with it. Justin Greenwood, who did Stumptown with your boy Greg Rucka. And,
Oh yeah.
He did Crone with my boy Dennis Culver.
I love that.
He's a good buddy of mine, and he's drawn the first arc 1 through 6, and issue 6 comes out in, I guess, probably 2-3 weeks. And we get to a real big, cool ending and cliffhanger in issue 6, and then issue 7 is art by Pop Man, and the colorist hangs on Brad Simpson sticking around, who also colors Stray Dogs and Local Man and all my stuff. And yeah, Pop Man is a guy who I met at Baltimore, who I had been a huge fan of in the 90s when I was reading all my, Extreme Studios, Wildstorm, Local Man Fuel. He had done this thing at Maximum Press called Christian, which was sort of like a Chris Bacalo, Jason Pearson inspired sort of like Rob Liefeld was writing this sort of like his body bags, I guess, or something. Okay. And Pop Man drew it, and it was super cool looking. And I was sat like 2 seats away from him at a convention in Baltimore, and I walked over to him and I was like, "Can you tell me please explain to me what the story was behind Christian?" And we talked about it a bunch, and I feel like he was impressed that I even knew about it, because it was only like three issues in this anthology book called Asylum. So like real like deep 90s nonsense, you'd have to really be paying attention. But I loved it. I super loved it. And so and I ran to him in another show, and he was like, "We should work on something together sometime." And I was like, "I'm doing this Army of Darkness, and Justin's wrapping up." And so luckily his schedule was open, so we just sort of slid him right in there. So Army of Darkness has been fun because knock on wood, the licensure just sort of lets me cook, but also Joe Rybant, the editor, has been real cool with just like, I'll say, "What about Pop Man?" or "What about Justin?" or, like just sort of lets me bring people in, and that's been cool too. It almost runs like an independent comic, like a creator-owned book, which is cool.
And is this your first Dynamite book, or have you done other Dynamite books?
I've done covers for them for years.
Sure.
I got they sort of brought me in because they wanted me to be like a rip-off Scotty Young. Like I was just drawing baby covers for them.
Sure.
And then when Stray Dogs took off, they Barucci and Joe both have a pretty good eye for like emerging talent. Like I always remember when Mark Russell did Flintstones, it took the rest, even DC, who already had him, it took them a while to figure out they had something. But in the meantime, Barucci was like, "Well, do Red Sonja, do fucking Lone Ranger, do this, that." I think that's a real gift that guy has, is that he reads everything, or he's just he's good at sort of taking the temperature of what's coming out that's cool and new. Like they're doing that Space Ghost book right now with David Pepos. Like
Pepos, yeah.
That's sort of popping off and having cool stuff happen. So
he's coming up pretty soon. He's going to come on and
awesome.
Talk about Space Ghost. And God, I'm bummed that I don't know what the plan is for Punisher. I like the new Punisher. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I mean, it's always tough for a legacy character to catch on, but I really like the premise.
Well, so I hope they keep doing it just without my sweet Dave. He's busy.
Yeah, that's true too. Maybe that's the case. No, that's good to hear, and I'm glad that Barucci is and Ryband are recognizing what you bring to the table. It's
been really fun. I don't know who's reading it. I don't know if anybody's reading it, but they're just really letting me cook. There's a few people that I'll hear from that are like, I dig that. I mean, I don't know who's reading any comics, but especially
I understand. It's again, it's a weird time right now. Yeah, I don't know. I think they have to figure out the price point for single issues, if there is one, a right price. I don't know.
I know they're raising the price on that one. The Army of Darkness is going up to $5, and the Uncanny Valley is going to be $5, and then Feral and my Image books are still $4. It's a weird time.
It's it really is. And again, thankfully, and I don't know how economically things sort out when a trade is still a decent, I think, value, and I think people still gravitate towards trades. I don't know. I mean, it's in the same way that I think over the air TV is kind of sorting itself out post COVID,
Yeah.
and certainly post strikes and everything too. It's it's a weird time in media. I can appreciate that.
Yeah, it is bizarre. We go to the movies every week, and we're in LA, so it seems like it's more of a movie crowd, you know. But even for the longest time, the movie theaters still people weren't going out, you know. And you just go and you watch the box office, and it would just be abysmal.
Tony, I'm gonna do a pre-Oscar show with Chicago buddy, and I got to be honest. This year more than ever, I was telling you, I'm in this kind of bit of an ennui,
Yeah.
and I even think there are more mainstream nominees this time around, but certainly during COVID, whew, I mean, there were a lot of, I always, there are certain conventions that have panels, and I refer to them as vegetable panels because they're good for you and they have the best intentions,
Yeah.
but not the most exciting ideas for a panel. And it's just like, and I think there are a lot of cool, critical, interesting art house movies that still get their shares of the nominations. I don't know, man. I'm an old fashioned guy. I remember even into the 90s, you still had mainstream movies resonating. And there are a handful this time around that are getting nominations and stuff. I think Maestro is a good example of that. Barbie, even though the weirdness of blowing off. Listen, I love Margot Robbie. I think she's very talented.
Yeah.
I don't think from an acting standpoint, Barbie was anything spectacular. That said, Greta Gerwig should have been nominated.
Sure, yeah.
Just for the pure gimmick of the movie and the way that it's presented and stuff. And it was such a unique, it's such a unique looking movie. So a humor aside and everything, but it is kind of weird in this, women's power moment that I think is well deserved that Ryan Gosling's the guy that gets the nomination. It's like, wow, that's tone deaf. Jesus Christ, man.
I feel like people just, a lot of time when it's something like that, when it's the Oscars, it's voted for by other, people in the movie industry.
Yeah, industry people. Yeah.
I know everybody I know saw Barbie, and even, like people who aren't artists, who aren't, like film nerds like you and me, you can see that and you realize that, like, oh, this isn't, the same way like the Lego movie, you see that and you go, it's like, oh, this isn't, like just a regular license. It's not like the Tinkerbell, straight to VHS movies or what, like,
right.
This is something special. But I do feel like when it is something that commercial and something that, you have to fight past that even more so than you do at like the box office for people to come out and see it. When it comes to like getting people to vote for it, people to respect it, it's like, all right, like, are these hardened filmmakers, these hardened, grips and like out of work directors and stuff, how are you going to get them to stamp Barbie on their Oscar ballot?
Wasn't it weird that the Golden Globes, they created that new category basically for popular movie?
Right. Yeah. Most popular.
Yeah. It's like, all right.
I mean, that's like the Oscars. There's 10 Best Picture nominees now, so that they can put in Top Gun, they can put in Barbie and Spider-Verse or whatever, like
right.
movies that make $1 billion that you have to, like, they can at least acknowledge during the telecast, like, oh yeah, I guess everybody in the world likes this one, but anyway, here's that Benedict Cumberbatch one where he's a cowboy. Like it's 7 hours long, and eventually at the end he gets an infection in his hand and dies. Spoilers.
It's a good description of that movie. That's fantastic.
I thought it was a fine movie, but
I remember in '78 when Star Wars was nominated for Best Picture alongside Annie Hall.
Yeah, 77
or 77. Pardon me. Exactly.
Come on.
So yeah. I don't know. It's weird, but again, I think Hollywood is really kind of sorting itself out. Good Lord, I'm so sorry that Stray Dogs got infected because Paramount, really. I mean, despite things like Top Gun Maverick and stuff, Paramount's in free fall, and nobody wants to incur the debt. They're gonna merge with somebody, but I don't know who.
And I'll tell you what, you bring up Annie Hall, it just makes me think of Mia Farrow and John Byrne. Probably sitting together right now on a couch, holding hands, watching, I assume, some Canadian, melodrama on TV. I hope.
All right, you're an old movie freak. Speaking of Canadian movies,
Yeah.
The Silent Partner. You ever see that? Curtis Hanson directed. Elliot Gould, Christopher Plummer, Susanna York, Superman's mom from the Donner movies. Great noir, great modern noir. John Candy's a baby in it. It's from like 77 or 78.
78.
Oh, you're looking it up now?
I've not seen it. Yeah.
There you go. It's
though.
It's great, and every now and then Hardman and I will, and Ian Brill will do a movie podcast and stuff. Tony, you should come on sometime. You're an old Hollywood freak, and you're a West Coast guy, so you'll stay up late with us.
Sure, I can hang with those guys. I got one for you. I don't know if I talked about it last time I was on with you or not, but it's hold on. Let me look it up. So because I'm going to just be going, get that guy from the thing.
It's all right. Jesus.
It's got Nurse Ratched,
Louise Fletcher.
Yeah. And it's got
just so you know, Louise Fletcher was amazing in Star Trek Deep Space Nine and was on the show as a recurring character throughout the run, literally from the earliest episodes till the finale and stuff. She was great.
All right, so it's got Hal Holbrook and Louise Fletcher.
Love Hal Holbrook.
It's called Natural Enemies. They just put out a Blu-ray of it last year. And
okay.
Hal Holbrook and Louise Fletcher are married. And Hal Holbrook, it's all told through his POV. And he wakes up in the morning. He's a magazine publisher. He's going about his job. He's going to go publish the magazine. They have a family. And he wakes up in the morning, and this is the morning he's going to kill his whole family. Like, he's like a family annihilator. He's going to be one of these guys, like these wrestlers that just come home and kill their, freak out their whole family. And so all day long, it's him sort of planning to go home and kill his whole family. And it's so dark and so crazy. And in the Blu-ray, they have like commentary tracks with the director, because the director, I don't know what else he did. It's directed by, I don't know, a very bad description of this thing, but definitely you should check it out. Here, the IMDb will tell me who directed it. Jeff Canoe, who was like a trailer director.
Yeah.
And he did like some of the biggest trailers of all time. He also directed Revenge of the Nerds, and he was the editor on Ordinary People.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, this was like maybe the first one he directed, one of the earliest things he directed. He didn't direct a ton of movies, but he did this one. And talk about taking a swing, like your first movie out. And he's just like, all right, I want to do one about a family annihilator.
Yeah, Jesus. And especially Hal Holbrook, who, he had his share of playing bad guys too, like Star Chamber and Capricorn 1 and things like that. But I always think of him as a leading man, and as he became older and stuff, just kindly grandpa and things like that. Having sex with Dixie Walker on Designing Women, his real wife, which is fantastic. I'm a big fan. I was just watching an old West Wing where he's like the assistant secretary of state.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It's a great one. He's sitting in the Oval Office with the president. Martin Sheen is just annoyed by him because you lost a sub, Mr. President, and in that great old man Hal Holbrook way. And Louise Fletcher, incredible actress, wonderful.
Obviously, she's super good at this.
Yeah, and again the title,
Natural Enemies.
Natural Enemies, very interesting. Yeah. Wow. What else have you seen? Anything else cool lately, Tone? Documentaries.
I've been watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the
new Amazon show. Yeah,
the Donald Glover, the gal from Pen 15. Super good. I'm still in the middle of it. I've been also making 4 comics at the same time, so I haven't finished the whole thing. But I'm in the middle. I think I just saw the one with Ron Perlman was the last one I saw. So they'll do episodes that are very slow, and then they'll do episodes that are just super hectic. And there's a Ron Perlman one that's just like an action scene that lasts the whole episode. Super good, super good.
I have to catch up on Masters of the Air. I haven't watched it yet on Apple.
Which one's that?
Masters of the Air. It's a World War II B-52 crew or pilots miniseries that's on Apple, and I'm hearing great things about that. I'm slowly going through, ironically, Slow Horses, the spy show on Apple. Big fan of that. Love for All Mankind. They wrapped up the 4th season. I thought it was excellent. Anything with that? What's that?
Is it over now, or are they going to come back?
I don't know. I hope not. I mean, they're really close to hitting modern day. I mean, the last episode of season 4 ends around 2010, so they're only 15 years behind us right now. But man, I'm and again, I was an Apollo kid. I remember the Apollo missions, especially post 11.
Yeah,
as we hit the 45th anniversary coming up. I got to do the math. No, 55th. Yeah, 55th, 69.
We went and saw the Coen brother movie last night because the Coen brothers are split up doing separate movies now, and Joel did the Denzel Washington Macbeth last year or the year before, and so now Ethan just put out this one called something Dolls, Drive Away Dolls.
I've heard about it. Go on.
And it's with Annie McDowell's kid that was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And then Beanie Feldstein is in it. Super good. It's like sort of like a lesbian true romance.
Interesting.
And it's really fun, although it's weird to see the Coen brothers. It's almost like they separated Siamese twins and each of them took parts of their personality with them. Because like the Joel movie has all sort of like the gravitas and sort of like the steady hand, confident filmmaking of the Coen brothers. And this one has all the charm and all the dialogue and stuff. But there are like filmmaking things where it seems like he just didn't give a shit to hang around long enough and he just wanted to race through and get to the next thing, So like there's a lot of like goofy transitions that I feel like if the other brother had been there, they would still be goofy, but they would feel a little more,
tempered,
purposeful, or
interesting.
Really interesting, a super fun movie. But do you remember The Lady Killers?
Oh, of course, the modern one with Tom Hanks, or the classic one with Alec Guinness,
the Coen brothers one.
All right, yeah, that would be the Tom Hanks one, sure.
It sort of has that kind of energy as far as like the madcap.
Yeah.
But Lady Killers still had that Coen veneer, where even though it was like that DreamWorks period where it was like Intolerable Cruelty, and they did a couple of, it was like before they came back hard with like Llewyn Davis and No Country
Man Alone and everything, and they're whatever it was called,
But yeah, this it feels more like that, but it was definitely interesting, fun to watch, and she's really great. I feel bad that I keep calling her Andy McDowell's kid, but I'm old. Look at me. Look at my beard. What should I call
it? Oh, relax. That's all right. Hey, man. Sometimes it takes something like Monarch for us to remember. Oh yeah, Kurt Russell's son. Now it's like, oh no, Wyatt Russell. He's worth watching. Sure. Yes. God damn. I keep saying it. And it's going to take me finally getting him back to do the wrap up to the season. I'm so happy for Matt Fraction.
I'm happy for Matt Fraction. I just saw an ad in the back of this. What was I looking at?
Trade magazine?
No, Hack Slash, and it says they're putting out the complete Sex Criminals, and I didn't realize they had finished Sex Criminals. Is that true? I thought it was just hanging out there unfinished.
They finished it. Either Chip finished it solo or the both of them finished it. And I've certainly seen promo shots of them. It's hilarious. They've got a shot of them, when the series first started, and then they got a modern shot. And Matt pretty much looks the same. Poor Chip. The decade has not been kind. Hold on, I'll zoom in. There we go. Absolutely. Yes, indeed. Yep. Right there with Farrell.
Yeah. Forget about that.
That's good. That's good product placement. No, I love it. I love it. Outstanding, man. No, and again, much like you were describing other like Mark Russell and stuff, same thing happened with Chip. Think of Chip. Hey, I'm the Sex Criminals artist, and I can do Howard the Duck, and it's like, yeah, now you're like one of the best Daredevil and Batman writers ever. Well done.
Yeah, crazy. Who saw that coming?
Not me. Not me, and I'm thrilled.
Matt Fraction's chum.
Exactly. That's how he was introduced to me.
Yeah,
and much like Elsa. Same with Elsa, man. They did November together. And I'm like, oh, look at Elsa. This is I love her style. That's great. And she's kicking ass. She's killing it.
Yeah. I knew Elsa she did Star Wars comics right before. Oh, and she did Wasp too. We weirdly were like working on, I did a cover for her Wasp book, and then we were on some of the same Star Wars kids comics at the same time. And then she did November, and I was like, look at her go. Now everybody else knows too. She was rad on those Star Wars comics.
That's cool to hear. That's good.
Licensed kids comics are not a place where you often find somebody doing like really like cool, innovative work, and she was doing that for sure.
God, you're right. I love talking to Sanford Green about that exact thing, because for years he was drawing kid comics on model.
Yeah.
And no, Sanford, as great of an artist as you are, we need you to draw Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes to look like the Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
And it's like, who knew? Like, finally, through Bitterroot and other things he's done, it's like, oh my God, Sanford's a virtuoso.
Yeah.
And we had no idea how great of an artist he is. So I absolutely hear you. That's great. There's another guy I got to get on that I haven't had on in a long time. Yeah. So he was driving me nuts in the best way. I don't know if you know the DVD of the documentary about Will Eisner that John Cook, the comic book artist, made and everything.
Yeah.
Do you have
it's got the shop talk on it too.
Exactly, man. And I've talked about it with Bendis, and Bendis is like, hey, when you think about it, Eisner kind of created the comic book podcast, because of those fantastic interviews he did. And Sanford's like, where are those? And he's like, can you rip them for me and send me? And I'm like, Sanford, my DVD of that is like buried in my like third move, 3 times removed. I'm like, it's somewhere. And thank God, and here for everybody, the Internet Archive has all the audio of those interviews. So I found them, and I'm like, Sanford, go here. And he's like, okay, fine. Because he really was like, he's like, well, I don't want to come on till you get this for me. I'm like, oh, Sanford, come on, I'm busy. Are you getting any cover requests still? Are you still doing covers?
Oh yeah. What am I I'm doing covers all the time. I mean, I do covers for my books. I'm still
sure,
doing covers.
But I'm wondering, like, you're what I've always loved is as I've described you as the chain smoking guy sitting in a thing, and it's like, can you draw Pinkie Pie? Yeah, I can draw fucking Pinkie Pie. Hold on a second.
We're, in that vein, I'm about to do a Sesame Street cover.
Wow.
Yeah, it comes from all different angles.
That's good.
I have a lot of weird covers going. I just did a cover for Oni's doing this video game adaptation called Cult of the Lamb. That's like a video game that's about this cute little sheep, but it's also like culty and satanic. So it looks like My Little Pony, but it has like violent satanic imagery. So I did one of those, and then the cover I turned in got approved, and then I had to make a little change, and then it was approved again, and then I just got an email the other day, and they were like, they completely unapproved. It was way too violent. They completely unapproved it. Could you draw another one? We'll pay you to do another one. So
nice.
At least my status now as a proven creator. Back in the day, anyone would have just called me and told me I had to redraw it. They're going to pay me to redraw it. But
God bless you, son. That's great.
That's how you can tell you're progressing. Is they won't take advantage as hard.
Honestly, Tone, when I was struggling in radio, and my sister's like, well, maybe you might have to think about another career or whatever. And I'm like, no. And certainly you're further along than I was at this point. I'm like, no, there's momentum. I know it doesn't seem like it, but they keep calling me back to be, a talking head about a boxing match or whatever. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And thankfully within a year it happened. Yeah. So believe me, I can relate. And you're certainly, again, much further along and it's great that they're going to pay you twice to do 2 covers. That's good.
Yeah, I got that sort of cover stuff going on, and then we just finished doing a run of Gargoyles covers at Dynamite. I was doing those.
Nice.
We did a bunch of Dynamite covers together, Trish and I,
That's good.
and then I got some writing stuff coming up. That's not creator owned, licensed stuff. So yeah, I'm working on other stuff, but
good.
Covers. I usually have something floating around, but there's nothing super, super interesting to speak of. I get random stuff lately. I did like a cover for that David Rubin Dark Horse book that's about like something Sundown. But it's like it was written by the guys that did Last Podcast on the Left. And they did like a vampire book with David Rubin, and I did a cover for that. There's random stuff, and then I do it and I forget about it, and then I'll get a package in the mail and it'll have.
I just had Brian Volk Weiss and Melissa Flores and Hunter Gorson on talking about the Nacelle verse and all the animated stuff they're bringing back as comics and new animation as well. And I would think they should tap you for a Bikers from Mars or a Roboforce or one of those other properties and everything, man.
I was hanging out with Hunter. He was at Comics Pro also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was live from Comics Pro. Melissa was home and Brian was home.
Oh, you were talking to them from Comics Pro.
Yeah. Wow. It cracked me up. Yeah, I'm like, Hunter, geez, I'm sorry, man. I'm taking you away from just like Portsack and and I'm sorry, his name again is yeah, Jesse. Yeah. I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, man. I'm keeping you from after hours downstairs. I'm like, easy. With Hunter, it was in the middle of the day, so it wasn't as bad, or late in the afternoon. But whatever,
Yeah, sure.
Tone, way to go. I'm very happy for you, man. Let's run through the lineup again.
Let's do it.
Final cutoff for Feral
Monday.
March also Uncanny Valley. Final cutoff Monday.
Uncanny Valley cutoff. Here's what it is. Monday is Feral and Local Man Bad Girls. And then in 2 weeks after that, on the 18th, is Uncanny Valley and Local Man Volume 2. So it's these next 2 weeks are all final order cutoffs for me. And then I assume there will continue to be final order cutoffs, but these are the big important ones that sort of set the tone for what the rest of them are going to be. You sell X amount, and then in issue 2, you sell about half of that, and then it slowly settles into what it's going to be. And so you just want to sell enough from the jump that when half of it falls off and you settle into it, you can afford to keep doing it. Because like I said, we want to keep making Feral for a long, long time. So we're hoping to sell a ton of the issue 1 so that issue 2 will be still a decent number and we can keep rolling. But we'll see how it goes.
I hear you, man. No, again, I think Stray Dogs really took everybody by storm and really appreciated it. And it's more of the same from yourself and Trish and company. And right, Trish?
Yeah, Trish. And Tone Rodriguez on backgrounds, Brad Simpson on colors. It's the whole same team. It's the exact same team. And Dennis Culver is editing this time around, so we get to hang out.
Wow.
And he sort of keeps me on task and comes over and kicks story ideas around with me in between issues. And so yeah.
Good writer to bounce stuff off of, as a good editor should be.
Yeah, so we worked in the same studio together, and he knows all my little tricks and all my bullshit. So he'll call me he'll call me on my nonsense, but also he knows me well enough to know when I'm sort of stuck on something where I'll just we're doing this no matter what. So this can't change. We can change anything else around it. And so it's fun. It's fun working together on stuff like that, where with the whole team, after having done Stray Dogs together, sort of knows each other. And then Dennis and I know each other really well too. So it is fun working with people where you know what they can do and they know what you can do.
Outstanding. That's great, man.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, Tone.
Thanks, buddy. Same.
You know it, man.
We're both out here doing this damn thing. Still 20 years in.
Doing the best we can, but we're getting recognition for it, and I think that's great. And I'm Yeah, I really, I'm thrilled that you're getting the opportunities that you are, not only for licensed books, but of course for good original ideas too, like Stray Dogs, like Feral, like Local Man, and like Uncanny Valley. I think it's great stuff, man.
Yeah. That's a pretty good run. I'll be like, if it's just that, if I just do these 4 things, I'll be happy with that. I feel like that's pretty good.
I think it's a good collection of Tony Fleecs writing that everyone should be aware of and get on their pull lists and everything. Absolutely, man.
Thanks. Man.
So yeah, you're always welcome back. I get whacked around to talk about Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, let's do it after. Let's get together after the first couple issues are out and see what's going on. I'm so excited for people to see this. I'm excited for you to see the finished full issue with all those colors in there and stuff. It really is beautiful. People that have seen his stuff in Punisher and then that have seen it in Ninja Turtles and stuff like that, I'm excited for them to see this whole other side of him where he's getting to really stretch and do finished artwork, full color finished stuff.
Very cool. Excellent. Everybody, thanks a lot for watching this week on Word Balloon Live. I'll be back Monday with a pre-Oscar show with my radio buddy Mike North. We'll be crapping on the nominees and talking about what we haven't seen. And then next Tuesday, the great Terry Dodson comes back to Word Balloon for a new conversation.
Does Rachel come on?
God, I keep begging him to bring Rachel. I'm hoping, they're going to do Terrificon. Or I should say, I know Terry's doing it. I think he's not sure yet if Rachel is going to come with her or not. I hope she does because I want to meet her.
Sure.
For her great colors and everything. Yeah.
Inks, but yeah, we get it.
Oh.
You're thinking of Laura Allred.
No, Laura's not married to, Or yeah, of course, Laura Allred. Here's my brain. You said Laura Allred. I was thinking Laura Martin. And it's like, no. You're right. Laura Allred, of course.
Martin Scorsese, of course.
And now we're back. And then all of a sudden we're back to John Byrne.
Can't get over it. What do they talk about? Does she know about Alpha Flight? Does she know about
Exactly. Yeah. Tell me everything about X-Men. I'd be happy to, my dear. Have a seat. Fantastic.
God, I hope it's true. All right. I can't. Tone's in my studio right now, just working on Feral. I can't wait to bust in there and tell him the big news. I'm so excited.
Let's spread that rumor. I think that'd be fantastic. Absolutely, man. All right, go give Tone my best. One of my prized possessions is his Snake Plissken that he drew for me at San Diego. Almost 20 years ago. It was like probably 2006 that I got it from and everything. Yeah, crazy.
Awesome. All right, buddy. It was great catching up. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. We'll talk to you soon.